After high school, I was like so many others, convinced that I could change the world. So I thought I would be the one to stop bad people doing bad things and to help good people doing good things. And so I went to law school in Berlin. And in my first week, I discovered something that's called a debating society. And I thought, well, for my work of saving the world, obviously, learning how to speak in front of people and arguing a case is a good skill. So I went there and they had a beginner's program. They organized all of us in groups and they gave us mentors and they taught us the principle of a debate. So a debate is different from a discussion because it follows clear rules. In a debate, usually you have 8 people, 4 on each side, and you don't know what you're talking about, what the debate is going to be about until shortly beforehand. Also, you will be allocated a side, so you cannot choose whether you want to argue for or against the topic. Another principle of debating is called rebuttal. Rebuttal means that you have to answer to your opponent's arguments and explain why your arguments are actually better. So one of my mentors, Johannes, he used to call it rebattling, like fighting back, the whole concept of rebuttal. And to be honest, this is what I did in the beginning. I felt good, I felt witty, I felt funny, and I used to look for the mistakes my opponents made and use that for my advantage. And I worked out quite well in the beginning. But then the beginner's phase ended. We were mixed with the more experienced debaters, and they all were better speakers than I was. They were funnier than I was. They had better arguments than I had. So that was really frustrating because apparently looking for your opponent's weakest spots only works until you meet someone who is stronger than you are, who is wittier than you are, who's funnier than you are, or who's just louder than you are. And if you meet that person, then you need a new strategy. So obviously I needed a new strategy too. So again, I went to my mentors and asked them, so what do I need to do to win a debate? And they told me, you know, you always focus on your opponent's weakest points, but what actually makes you win a debate and what also makes a debate good is if you look for your opponent's strongest points. So that's why I understand that actually strengthening your opponent's arguments is also strengthening the debate as a whole. And this is also why I understood why my other mentor, Jules, she would always insist that it's called rebuttal. It's about answering, it's about engaging, it's not about fighting back. So I felt I needed to practice that, and I went on my first few tournaments. One of my first tournaments was in Cambridge. I was in my first year. My debating partner was also a beginner. And we were in a debate with a team from Oxford, a team from Cambridge, and a team from Princeton. I was really intimidated. I felt that I hardly understood half of what they were saying. They were speaking really fast, and I felt they had each about 1,000 arguments, and I had maybe half an argument. But what they actually did was listen, and all they cared about was my argument. They didn't care that I was a beginner. They wouldn't have cared if I was the President of the United States. They only cared about my argument. So this actually encouraged me because I felt respected and I felt included and I felt like I could continue working on myself. And it also showed me that strengthening your opponent's arguments strengthens a debate on a personal and on an argumentative level. On a personal level, I think we all know this feeling. We all know this, we have this experience. If I make you feel bad or if I make you feel stupid, then you will probably not want to talk to me again. Or if you do talk to me again, maybe you want to make me feel stupid or bad in return. Or maybe you get angry or you get aggressive. Or maybe you take your frustration and want to focus it on someone else. all I do is create a cycle of frustration. But if I do take you seriously, even if I disagree with everything you're saying, then we can keep talking. And we can keep talking about arguments. Strengthening your opponent's points and taking them seriously is also important on an argumentative level. Because if you match your own arguments, your own opinions, against the strongest points of your opponent, this means that your points need to be really strong too. If you don't do that, if you're just looking for weaknesses, then it's easy to just come up with some nice words, something that people agree on. But if you have to test it from all angles because you want it to be really strong against your opponent's arguments, then it has to be a really good argument, and you have to reflect upon your own argument and think about what the other person is going to do and going to say in return. So, strengthening debates, rebuttaling and not rebattling, this is something that's important also outside of debate land, I think. Right now, we are seeing that there's a lot of frustration out there in the world. This is changing the political discourse. We have presidents who are calling each other fat or old. We have people who are marching the streets of capitals with torches. We have campaigns for more walls, more borders, less communication. And I don't agree with any of that, and I don't support it. And I totally understand if you're too exhausted to answer, if it's too hurtful for you. But ignoring these people, ignoring these trends, it's not gonna make them go away. Ignoring them is only going to create a breeding ground for extremism, for fundamentalism, for radicalization on every level. Not communicating is going to widen the gap within a society, and it's closing doors, because the wider the gap, the less communication there is, the less likely it is that we can start engaging with each other again, that we can close the gaps, that we can move on, be progressive. So I would say that we should indeed keep talking, that we should keep on the communication, even if it's exhausting, even if it's frustrating, even if it's sometimes hurtful. But we should not make the same mistake that I made at the beginning of my debating career. We should not call them names. We should not look for their weakest spot. We should not try to find the meanest tweet that we can send out and feel witty and feel funny about ourselves, because that's not going to make them change. Maybe if we are looking for the core of their argument, if we test it from all angles, if we engage with that, maybe that's not going to change them either. But if we do that, it's going to do some things for sure. It's going to keep up the communication. It is going to create an alternative to an aggressive environment. And it is going to strengthen your own arguments, your own criticism, and it's going to make it more reflective. So I went to law school because I thought I could change the world. Well, now I study politics. No, but I think that respectful communication that leaves doors open, that is on an argumentative level, this is something that could truly change the world and make the world a better place. Thank you.